Hi, everybody. Welcome to AITA Pod. I'm Danny Vega, joined today by an amazing guest. He's a cannabis salesman, Johnny Cannabis Seed. He reckons himself a longtime Angelino and a very long-time friend of mine. I think over 15 years.
15
a while.
Years. 15 years, Danny
Is that
Vega.
true? We welcome Jake Davis to the show. I'm 32, so that's 22 minus 5. Yeah, I would say maybe 13 years.
13 years.
13 years.
We're rounding up.
Well, it's so great, Jake. We've been talking, catching up. I mean, I'm new to LA. You've always been a big LA fan.
Love it.
It's winning. I got to admit, it's finally scoring some wins on me.
You gotta get into LA. It's not gonna come to you. You gotta go seek out what you
drive.
like.
You gotta go drive to it.
You gotta drive. I love driving. I think it's because I grew up here.
You love driving.
I love driving.
Wow.
It's when during lockdown, that was one of the few things that I could do to get me out of the house.
Yeah.
I would just drive up the 101 past Ventura, maybe stop and get gas in Ojai. Come on back down around the loop through Santa Clarita. It just clears your head.
And guys, this is a classic LA thing, what Jake just did. They go off with all these crazy numbers and letters and locations.
It's very easy to forget that that interstate stuff, it's such a daily part of your life.
Right.
Particularly for me, I'm on the road 3-4 days a week usually, and driving all over the place. So
right.
it's very easy to forget that these complicated maneuvers that you're taking to get around the city isn't common knowledge for everybody else. But it's daunting when you first get here, I'd have to imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I just use Google. Actually, no, I become an Apple Maps guy
You're an
now.
Apple Maps
yeah, I feel like it's a little better because it'll be it's just a little bit, I'm very stupid. So it'll be not this light, but the next light, make a right. Whereas Google Maps is make a right. And I'm like, okay. And now I'm at a laundromat.
I know what you mean. Google Maps is just kind of now. But I'm also stupid and I like the colors on Google Maps better. I just like the interface.
I give the colors. You're right. So now you're saying you drive around because you use this term earlier, a bud tender. There's bud tenders at weed dispensaries.
I was a bud tender.
You were a bud tender.
Yeah, that was one of my chapter.
That's a barista.
Essentially, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's tip your bud tenders, folks. I've seen a lot of people talking about why am I tipping a bud tender? They're just number 20%?
One. That's what's that? Is it 20%?
No, not even. It's $2. It's whatever. If you break 25 and it was 23, you get $2 back. Put it in the tip jar. Most of the bud tenders are working for the tips, and you might just be somebody who comes through, buys 1/8, buys a pre-roll. You already know what you want. You didn't see that bud tender have to spend 25 minutes with a 78-year-old woman who's going to buy weed, but is terrified of buying weed.
Right.
And has to patiently walk her through why this is okay. I'm going to set you up with something that works for you. It's a fun job, but it is surprisingly stressful because people can become real assholes in a dispensary very fast. I was shocked at how not cool people could be in a place like that. The shop I worked at had a lot of wealthier people coming in. It was right at the foot of the Hollywood Hills in Studio City. So we had a ton of really sometimes bougie folks, sometimes really high profile VIP people coming in, and it was wild the ask that they would put on a 22-year-old kid who's essentially working their first job in an industry that they want to climb up in. It's surprising how much people would get set off by oh well, I know that you're looking for this, but we're out of that and I could recommend this. It's just what do you mean you're out of it? I come in here every day. You always have this product. You tell me you're out of it? Just these fucking Andrew Tate fuckers going off for nothing.
Who's Andrew Tate? Because I've been seeing all this news.
I shouldn't have been.
He's just a gamer, right? Asshole gamer.
No, we really shouldn't talk about him because then he infects. Oh, okay. He infects terrible human being. Piece of shit. Specifically moved to Romania because it's easier to get away with sexual assault there. He's on record saying that, and he is poisoning the young men of America and the world. He was just recently banned from Instagram and Facebook. Thank God.
Yeah, that's what I've been seeing in all the headlines, and I'm like, who is this guy?
It's oh boy, here we go.
He's
I'm
a
sorry,
kickboxer.
everybody. If this is appropriate for Am I the Asshole? Andrew Tate is the asshole. He is the asshole from whence all other assholes come.
Well, let's not go into him.
Yeah.
I mean, fuck Andrew Tate. I mean, he's banned anyway. I feel safe saying that. So whatever. So, okay. So you've got asshole customers. You're the bud tender. I mean, I think it's interesting though. You seem to be pushing because look, I'll go in. I would say my average ticket at the weed store, and I go very infrequently, maybe once a quarter. I'm going to spend $50 there. Yeah. You're telling me on $50, I can leave a couple bucks, $5. If
you want to tip more, if you got
10%.
Really good help and or if you just vibe with the bud tender, you have a good conversation. A lot of people who do this job, they have other stuff going on and they love talking about it. So when they find a kindred soul, it's like I've seen some customers just hang around for a half hour just chatting with us. And if it's not busy, that's okay. I don't.
10% tip though? Can I lock in here or no? You're saying
whatever you feel comfortable giving is appreciated. That's really the easiest way I can put it because the tips aren't expected, but it is ultimately a huge part of your take home.
Tips aren't customary.
No, they're customary. The tip jars are always out and it's an expected thing.
Yeah.
But it's that thing where even if I'm ordering pickup now, I'll still tip a little bit just because.
But not 10%. You're not. I'm trying to get you in on a number, but I'm not getting.
I guess I usually tip between 10 and 20% if I'm just picking up. I almost always tip between 25 and 30 now when I'm eating out, simply because time.
Well, when you're eating out, but when you're getting weed from a store.
I mean, if 10% is the number you're comfortable with, that's still probably going to be more than the average customer tips. Usually, they're just putting change that they have from their exchange in. Got it. Okay, if you put in any money that folds, you're getting a thank you.
No, I mean, this is great. I do 10 or 15. I'm pretty sure for the weed. And then, then you got to pay with a debit card. That's a whole thing too. But anyway, that's a separate concept.
Yeah. So I think I usually pay with a debit card now and they'll round up and you get some money back. I always just put that in the tip jar and that's an appreciated move.
So we go back. Let's talk a little bit about, we both remember this girl. We were in a sketch team in college and there was this
fascinating.
Yeah, there was a person who was in the group and we brought her up organically here, catching up, and she only ate two things, and I believe I've talked about her before on the podcast. She only ate Burger King chicken fries.
Just the chicken fries.
And the peanut butter dream smoothie from Jamba Juice.
Which is essentially a cake.
Very sweet, very decadent, very rich.
I do not understand how you can have one of those a day. Or how many did she have?
I don't know her. Yeah, I don't know how she. That's a good question. Did she have chicken fries? By the way, she did not eat. But here's what I think is interesting. I think memory is so interesting. This detail, this person, her diet has stuck with everyone in this friend group, and we still wonder about her.
Yeah. This is not coming from a mean place. I genuinely find it fascinating. She was just an interesting person. And I always kind of thought she was onto something. You're sticking to this. You're telling the world, no,
what does she know?
Yeah.
What does she know?
Also, I remember I was distinctly scared for her because chicken fries get pulled off the menu at Burger King. So what does she do? What does she do in the dark years?
Those are the peanut butter dream days.
Fuck. What boost was she putting in the...
She freezes them. She buys them and freezes them. So funny.
She has a freezer for the winter years.
Yeah.
Of chicken fries. Oh, I hope she's doing well. I remember her being very funny.
I checked her Facebook recently and I inferred that she is eating other things now.
That's great.
That's exciting for her.
And usually we're talking about this too. Usually picky eaters drive me nuts, but that was she had gone past the horizon.
She went so far into it. It's who she was, who we remembered her as being.
She was in a far realm that I appreciated the journey that she had gone on to be where she was. And I just found it to be a very interesting character trait.
I think that's a good observation. If you go far enough into something, it starts to become almost impressive.
Yeah.
If you're like, nah, I don't drink. It's like, okay, well, did you need to even say that? Just don't drink.
Yeah.
But it's with me, I have fire cider. And actually, I've actually won some people over on there like that. They're like, that's cool. You still drinking crazy shit.
Yeah. Well, I think people get... about being around people who don't drink because everybody knows you're right. It's poison. Nobody should be drinking. Nobody should.
That's the problem.
That is no. It's the same thing
hilarious.
with people. Why people dunk on vegans all the time. It's like, yeah, they're right. They're eating much healthier than we are. Their diet doesn't make the environment worse. I still love eating meat. It's a character flaw, I guess, but I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop drinking until, I don't want to do it anymore. But I love me some White Claw and vodka, so I'm going to keep drinking for a while at least. Sure, but you are right about this. I'm not going to argue with you on it. But I think some people, they have that disconnect. Oops.
Everybody knows.
Yeah, it's and it gets personal for them without them realizing it's personal.
No, I think you're spot on. So here's another interesting point we're talking about. You're tall. Yeah. You are. What are you? 6 foot?
6'5".
You're 6'5".
Well, actually, wow. What's funny is I'm actually closer to 6'6", but I've gotten in the habit of saying 6'5". I don't round up because anytime I say 6'6", it is wild how quickly somebody is like, "No way, you're 6'6", bro." I've got a friend who's 6'7". No way, you are 6'6". It's like, it is a weird hot button thing. Yeah. So I round down just to make everybody feel more comfortable.
I feel a little better about it. Now I'm a 5'9", maybe 8.5. I don't really know. It's weird because obviously when I'm comparing it to other short men, and so they all have a complex. So you got to be careful.
5'9's not short.
I would say it's on the short side. Here's the thing. I've done a lot of research into this. So 5'8" is the global average.
Right.
But America is actually on the taller side of country, so it's actually below average in the United States.
Right.
But ladies, use the global average. Thank you. Anyway,
I do agree with that.
But so so we went to college together. We were maybe rivals at points. We had some tension.
That's fair to say.
We had things that happened between us. But I think what's interesting about you and something that I had to learn to understand, and this was a shortcoming of me, is that I said, "Oh, look at Jake. He's tall, he's good looking, he has blue eyes, and he's confident, so fuck him." And there's no way you could hurt someone like that who has been handed, what some might say is a genetic lottery. But you actually, told me that isn't really quite the case, that you had a really tough time in high school and things like that.
At high school it started getting a little bit easier, but I was 6 foot even by the time I was in 5th grade.
Wow.
And I was
5th grade?
5th grade. 5th grade. I was 2 feet long when I was born.
I'm pretty sure your height isn't supposed to be your grade plus 1 foot. There's no way that's normal.
But you stick out. You stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
And the key to being cool as a tall person is you gotta be coordinated. Especially when you're a kid, there's recess, you're playing sports. If you're tall and you're not coordinated, it is hunting season on you in middle school and even up into high school day one. By high school, I kind of figured out how to focus on other things. So it wasn't, and you're not, I feel like you're playing a lot more sports in elementary and middle school. So your lack of coordination is always on display.
Right.
But yeah, I had a huge complex about I always wanted, unless I was in a show or like on stage, I took to that very early. Any other time, I would want to be as unseen as possible. I would want to be back. I wanted to feel like
Oh, that's so interesting.
I wanted to feel like I fit in the crowd rather than like most kids my age were like up to here on me.
So I think we see this with hot women as well. I've heard a similar complaint. It's like, as a 5'9", fairly average looking, I'm always like so excited to get any attention from a woman or from a guy. Fuck it, I'll take it. Just like being told I'm hot and stuff like that. So it sounds to me kind of like a component of being the tall guy is like it's an always on thing, and it's like sometimes I don't want to be the fucking tall guy. I just want to be a guy here with everyone else. Would you say that's true?
It's yes, and it's a weird thing. It's kind of fun to talk about it because it's something I never complain about. You're right, it is a genetic lottery. I think it's very strange, like all of the clinical trials about how people are treated differently when they're perceived as being tall, because I'm tall to most people. I'm not tall to Shaquille O'Neal, for instance, but when I do talk about it, the only thing about it it's kind of what you're describing, where there's always, you're kind of answering for other people's subconscious sometimes. The best example I have is when I was bouncing. Everybody assumed I was the bouncer that you didn't want to mess with because my coworker was like 5'6", 5'7".
Right.
I was actually the customer service bouncer. I was the guy who would come over and ask like, "Hey, y'all, I know we're having a good time. It's getting a little rowdy over here. Let's calm it down." My coworker had bounced in Southside Chicago for several years and was also a bodybuilder for a day job. Yeah. I watched that guy throw men bigger than me over his shoulder like it was a backpack.
Wow.
Just no problem.
Beast mode.
Yeah, exactly. He was our actual, like, that's the ringer. I'm the guy that you want to talk to.
Yeah.
But people would square up on me constantly and almost never pick fights with him, because when you have assholes at a bar who are drunk, they want to, it's that dumb school, I don't know if it's a real thing in prison, the movie prison thing of biggest, baddest guy in the yard, knock his ass out. I am so not an impressive person to knock out. I have no coordination. I'm very not aggressive.
Right.
But because of the perceived difference,
right,
it was I had to deal with a lot of hostility. And it was the same way in middle school. People liked picking on me because it always looked tougher to pick on the tall kid.
Right.
But I was soft-spoken. I had a lot of stuff going on at the time. I was very emotional. It was easy to get me to cry. That was another. It's still easy to get me to cry.
Very relatable. Well, you can feel free to cry here.
I know. I feel safe here. I appreciate that.
That'd be a huge get for us. You know, I've cried 4 or 5 times, I think, on the pod.
You're being real. I like it.
Never had a male cry before.
Never had a male cry.
Sarah cried once. So
okay.
You could catch up to her right now.
We'll see where the conversation goes. But ultimately,
so wait, okay, let's break this down a little, because I think this is so interesting. You know, especially because most of our listeners are women. So, but I think there's a guy layer to this. I am gendering it up. I think, first of all, what it is just by being, people say, like, okay, the hottest woman in the room, like, there's an awareness there. There's an awareness there. It's not pretty, but it's true. The guys in the room have that fact in their head. It's something you never need to say out loud. Nobody needs to say it, but it's present. And at the same time, I think it's present who is, if it's a standout, really, that's the other thing. It's got to be like kind of a standout, right? Who is the baddest motherfucker in this room? And by default, it's going to fall on you. And there's a weird, like, primal, all of this shit is primal, right? And it's like, that's why you are going to be hit with the hostility.
I always want to help them when they come at me with that. I was just like, hey, you want to talk about it? What happened? Who were you not tall enough for? And that it's one of those things that you don't have to, I don't have to worry about it. And I'm very conscious of that. Part of my privilege is not just being a white male, not just being a white male that has been told throughout his life, like, hey, you're a handsome guy.
Right.
A tall, handsome white male. And I'm not trying to blow smoke up my own ass here.
Yeah.
There's a ton of privilege that comes with
you're owning it. You're just owning it. But it's a two-sided coin, just like being a really beautiful woman is a two-sided coin.
It's the two-sided coin of being a beautiful woman and two-sided coin of being, I have to deal with people's emotional insecurities. You're actually in danger as a hot woman on the other side of that coin. On the other side of my coin, I think it is mostly just like, you have to make a choice of, like, you're either going to be aware of this and care about how other people feel around you. I'm always, like, when I walked in here, I was very careful not to knock anything over because of my big, huge, weird body.
Thank you. There's a lot of shit all over the place, so thank you.
There's a method to the madness. But I'm on a stage in my life where I can finally say I love every aspect of who I am.
Right.
And that's a cool place to
be.
But that's obviously, like, faults and everything, but you can accept those and work on them. With the tall thing, I always am just very grateful for what I have. And when I deal with a problem with it, it's just like, that's the tax. That's fine.
That's the tax.
That's the tax.
Well, yeah, maybe that's a better way to put it, because saying two-sided coin means it seems like each side of the coin is equal. Like, would I trade to be 6'5"? I think I would. I'm going to be frank, guys. I think I would trade. I would take. What
would you give up for it?
Well, I got a 2-foot penis, so I'll just trade a foot right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, that seems like more of an inconvenience.
We're
talking about a two-sided coin.
Yeah.
Shorts, out,
right? You lose
jeans or khakis.
Yeah, I mean, because we're not denying. I just think I guess all I'm really trying to say is, I'm not denying the privilege of being tall or white or male or anything, but sometimes there can be unexpected, right? Like, that's why I think a lot of guys will say ignorant shit, like, oh, it's so easy to be a woman, so easy to be a hot woman. And
you just saying that as an example just made me like, fuck.
Well, they're ignorant, and so I think this is a good point to take home. It's like, when you're a big guy, like, you are encountering some kind of primal hostility. Yeah,
there's definitely
out there.
There's an element there.
It's interesting.
And the one thing I would ask, just do us all a favor, folks. listening at home. And this is, you're right, this is almost always guys. Women never really make a deal about it. Like when I was on dating profiles, they would usually make some opening line about like liking the height or whatever.
Well, women like it, right?
It's not, short kings. I'm a big fan of short kings. I when I see 6 foot woman with a like 5'5" guy, oh my God. Go get him,
you
king.
go, girl.
Go get him, king. You go get him, queen. I love it.
Yeah.
Just taking the world by storm. I love that kind of pairing. So that is a benefit. Most women do prefer taller guys, but they never, like, if I'm in a business meeting or if I'm meeting people on a professional level, they never comment on my height. They never comment on my body. It's like that thing that's coming. It's more vogue now, where if your friend decides to lose a lot of weight, tell them, hey, I'm glad that you're doing something that makes you happy. It is weird to comment on people's bodies as an icebreaker.
Big agree.
If you're talking about it,
avoid.
It's a topic. But if you open with it, it's just weird. I remember I dropped about 45 pounds once, and a bunch of friends from college saw me after I had gotten a little heavier. Yeah. And the first thing all of them say is just like, whoa, look, it's skinny. And like, you're looking great. And it was just like, okay, guys, I didn't really do it for you guys, but I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So just don't ask people, how tall are you, as soon as you meet them.
Right. I'm sorry I asked.
No. It's we were talking about it already, and for the folks at home, it's a point of reference.
They gotta know,
and you didn't do it as an icebreaker. You're not meeting me for the first time. I've gone into sales meetings where the person I'm meeting with first comment is, "Wow, you're tall. How tall are you?" And it's just like, it's weird.
Because you know what? It's sizing you up a little bit too, literally, but also just like, it's like personal, but in a weird way, I guess, too. Like your specs.
The specs. Yeah, that is kind of
breaking it
down. What's your BMI?
Hardware. Yeah, exactly.
What's that BMI? Blood type. What's your blood type? I need to know.
Yeah.
The other thing, and this, again, it's a masculine thing. It's wild how many times guys will just, in the middle of a conversation, tell you, man, I tell you, if I had your height, I know I would have gotten into college basketball or been able to play football at a competitive level. It's just like, man, if you had my height and my coordination, that dream would die so much faster than it did for you.
You don't know the entire specs of this hardware, sir.
It's like, look, I know the Tesla looks great, but this battery is about to blow up.
Right, exactly.
Any second now.
Yes, I am a Tesla, except a Tesla in a world with only gas stations. Good luck, my friend. Good luck with your basketball. So just to tie this in a little bit, guys. So Jake and I had a fight in college, or we had a conflict. It wasn't a fight, but it was interesting. I think this is how we got into...
It's like a hostile Seinfeld exchange.
Yeah, well, it was weird because it happened and I didn't know it was serious. And then you told me later it was serious. I don't even remember if I handled it well, but I know looking back, it was something that stuck with me. And
I remember you definitely hearing me when I brought it up.
I did. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's good to hear. So I had a pull-up bar in my house. And what I would do when I was in college is probably throw back a shot like a crazy person, put on really loud dance music and do pull-ups. And there was a brief period in college where I kind of had some biceps going. And I
remember that period. You started working out more. And you got a lot of confidence from it. I liked that aspect of it.
Yeah. And well, in my recollection, and correct me if I'm wrong here, was that you came over and I said like, and actually, again, cohering with this thing where it's like, Jake tall, Jake therefore strong. Jake and I compete, so I beat Jake, I become strong. Like some weird primal logic like this. And I challenge you to do the pull. Yeah, like what did I actually?
You wanted to see who could do more pull-ups, and which
sounds very obviously hostile now that you say it back to me now. Just a casual.
It was also at a time where we had a lot going on too. We were producing shows. School was about to get back into session, so our dance cards were very, very full.
Yeah,
we were like our brands in running these comedy shows were starting to get out to Phoenix a little bit more.
Right.
So we were just running at a higher level, and you and I were kind of butting heads on how do we do this? How do we approach this?
Just a friendly pull-up contest, Jake.
Nothing sinister
the
here,
stakes
large
are
man.
Nothing. Hold on, let me start recording and film this.
And granted, my ego was bruised by this because I knew before I even got up on that pull-up bar, you're gonna torch me at this.
Okay.
Not just because you were in great shape at the time, and I wasn't making that a priority,
right,
but also because when I was in elementary school, do you remember the presidential fitness test?
Yeah,
and I think through middle school, part of that is pull-ups. I could not do a single pull-up.
Wow.
I worked on this at home. I tried to teach. It took me until I was probably 15, 16 years old before my body even learned how to do one.
Wow.
It was like I just didn't have the mechanic for it in my body. So pull-ups were a weird point of ego death for me, because it immediately takes me back to 5th grade and being tallest kid in the class and having like perfectly normal average presidential fitness tests and everything except pull-ups, big fat 0. Every other kid in the class is at least getting up to 5 or 7 or whatever, because kids are light and it's easy to get up there, and just big fat 0. And that just being a thing that was easy to tag me for to the kids who had a problem with, who were, you know, saw the height thing as something they can make fun of. And they were right, because it got to me all the time. But yeah, so you touched on something without realizing it that was like core memory. People make fun of you when you do this. And I was not in the emotional level I'm at now where I couldn't explain that to you in the moment. And I had to bull up and try to one-shot you of like, oh, if we do this, I'd win at that. So we were both being young men who had absolutely no idea how to deal with the emotions they were feeling. And I think part of it too was like, you and I were always doing shows together. There was always that like, Danny had a better set than me tonight.
Rival.
So but after that point, I think you and I entered a much healthier friendship. I remember that conversation kind of being a turning point where we started looking at each other. We'd been collaborators in full up until that point, but I think that was when we were really just like, okay, we're good. There's no weirdness here.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you owned it, and I remember you characterized it as bullying, and I was confused by that. But now I get it, because it felt like bullying. Bottom line. Yeah. You know, it's funny because like I think in male friendships, and I've had this problem a lot, and it's a hard thing to know, because like I think a little bit of competition is almost necessary in a close friendship, and I think there were times when we were pretty close, right? Because the way I see it is like, I can respect a Nobel scientist. Of course, you know, they whatever.
I would hope so.
Yeah, I can respect them. They cured cancer, whatever they did. I guess they haven't cured cancer, but
sure, the famous
whatever. What did they do? Those Nobel scientists.
Terrence B. Jameson, the guy who cured cancer.
Terrence B. Jameson. But like, I'm never gonna really be able to be like close friends with that, because we have nothing in common, right? I've cured 0 cancers. Some people have accused me of starting cancer, but that is not true. I did not make up cancer, guys. I don't know why they're saying that, but it's like the people I'm able to like ultimately respect the most are people who are like me, and I'm able to do that because I understand what they're doing. Like, I have a true grasp. I'm like, oh, I know how they did that. I know how they did that. And I don't know how they did that, but I know how they might have gotten close to doing that. Like, and so there's like this mirroring that happens, I think, in a lot of relationships, not necessarily all of them. And you can be close to people for other reasons. But it's like a hard thing to straddle in male friendships, like rivalry versus something that can become a little darker, like healthy rivalry versus like, bullying. I mean, that's really it, right? It's like we are competing, but then there's times where it's like, well, what are we competing for here? Do we need to frame this up as a competition? I don't know, something like that. I definitely agree with you up to a point there, where I think and we're just speaking as men. I cannot obviously speak as any other gender's experience growing up. Sure, absolutely.
But in that 20 to 30 range, your male friends are sort of your genuine friends. You're not using each other, but you are sharpening each other. You're finding out who you are into this true journey into adulthood, that sort of adulthood junior of 20 to 25. You're really kind of testing yourself and seeing, who am I really? And a lot of the times male friends, it's like, we're busting chops. We're like that. Yeah. And once I got to about 26, 27, once I started to have a firmer grip on like, okay, I think I'm figuring out who this guy really is, I don't need that competition anymore. I find that now all of my friendships, and I'm very blessed I have a much wider group of friends that I'm way closer with than any other point in my life.
Right. And
I want to be nurturing and caring for them at all times, just provide them what they need. I think part of it's been the last few years, just the world in the state it's in.
Yeah.
We've seen so much cruelty. We've seen so much indifference. We've seen like absolute chaos breaking out at the drop of the hat. So I think I'm less worried about rivalry and like where I stand now, and I'm more worried about where are my friends at, where are they standing. And that's been a big focus for me this last year, is I've really wanted to take time to, especially after the lockdown, I wanted to, say yes to more. A friend has a function, say yes to it, go go if you can. And
Right,
work is
right.
work, but if you can make it, be there. We don't know how long we're all going to have together before people move, terrible things happen, states on fire,
environment collapses.
We all know where it's going when you say you never know.
You never know. No, we know. We know it's going to be bad. We just don't know how soon.
Yeah.
No, I think it's great. And I think you're on point here too, because the competition and the kind of jockeying for status in this small localized thing, like a friend group or like our comedy groups in college, it's like so pointless. It's like in the end, this friend group, the Phoenix comedy community, dare I say, is not going to be what gets you a career in this or whatever fulfillment ultimately, even if you're not so like commercially driven. And you come to realize like, the idea of beating like my friend at something is ultimately like a stupid, pointless victory. You don't want to compete on that stage generally. So what you're really doing is it's a pissing contest, and so it's something to grow out of.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think when you have friends that are still into the same things, I think the rivalry, it changes into inspiration where you see somebody do something brilliant and it opens you up to like, wow, that's a cool way to look at this. I want to flip around how I'm thinking about what I'm working on. And it's like fire catching fire.
Absolutely. And I had a friend who I think did not understand this or whatever, was unchecked. And this was a couple of years ago. What he wanted to do was in front of another friend. So it was two of us comedians and another friend. He was like, let's compare our stand-up tapes and let's see whose is better.
That's my hell. What that was just pitched there is what is waiting for me in the afterlife.
I don't think so. You're going to heaven, Dave.
I don't know about that.
No, I have it here. I actually have I DM Satan. I sold him my soul. It's a whole thing. But yeah, you're good. I got.
He's a good
cleared.
dude.
Yeah,
he's a good dude, Satan.
And so he wanted to do this, and it's like, what is the point of this exercise? And there is no point. It's absolutely unhealthy.
That's just picking out a scab. You're not going to get better doing that.
No one's getting better. No one's getting any results that matter. It's
together.
It's literally a contest of piss. We're going to both get piss all over us. Let's piss on each other. That would be equally productive.
But it's unfortunately with how soloist stand-up is, that was always my least favorite thing about it, is collaboration was always done, at a coffee shop or in your free time. You're never really collaborating unless you had a stand-up partner and you have a joint set. And I love that. That's my favorite part of comedy is
the joints.
It's what?
The joint sets?
Yeah.
You really see it.
Just like I love getting to create comedy with somebody else.
Yeah.
And when you're doing stand-up, you're just by yourself and the ego gets raw. It gets real raw and you want to scratch it. And that's going to help it not be raw. Oh, but it just gets more raw.
I mean, I think that's what's so addicting about it and amazing is because when it's a win and you kill and you won that all by yourself, and that's an amazing feeling.
Yep.
But when it's a bomb, you wear that all by yourself and it's a very bad feeling.
It's tough. And I think no shade against comedians. I can name a dozen personal friends that do it that I think are very well-adjusted human beings that have become better and better versions of themselves as time has gone on.
Sure. I'm not one of them. But.
But I think a lot of that is learning how to handle bombing. It's once you learn that it's not personal and that it's just like, have you ever had that? I feel like people who don't do stand-up immediately, they'll compare it to jumping out of a plane. In their mind, it's just like, oh God, it's like, I've heard like people compare it to skydiving a lot. And I've heard comedians compare it to skydiving. And I'm just like, okay. The worst thing that can happen to you when you skydive is you die. The worst thing that can happen to you when you do a stand-up is that room of strangers didn't think those ideas were funny.
Yeah, and I would go a little farther, though. I would go a little farther.
Fair enough.
I feel you. There's an arrogance and like an over like blowing it out of proportion when you compare it to skydiving.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I think the reason people fear stand-up so much is because what they really fear is learning that they're unfunny.
Oh, yeah.
And people don't want to learn that. They don't want to learn that because that's hard to accept, right? Like it's these people who will do one show and it goes well, they get to think of themselves as very funny comedians because they only did one show, right? But if you keep doing more, right, you're going to get that bomb eventually.
Yeah.
You have to face the reality that sometimes you can be unfunny. And so there's almost like this fall from ego grace, right? Because your ego is able to like keep in your head this picture of like, oh, I'm perfect.
Yeah.
Right. And the ideal, but then the rubber meets the road and you learn, not quite.
Yeah. It's something I really held on to, and it took me a long time. I think I was maybe just starting to get a handle on it when I walked away from stand-up. A really great road comic that I was opening for out in Phoenix, he gave me some really, really good advice where he said, crave when you bomb. Look for like when you bomb, that is a chance for you to improve by leaps and bounds.
Sure.
When you have a good show, you can mark, oh, okay, that worked. I can keep that, maybe shine that up a little bit. When you bomb, that's a chance for you. If you have it on tape, like tape everything specifically so you can see yourself bomb.
Yeah.
Because then you have a full slew of the weak side of your game to address.
So much to learn.
So I wasn't great at that. I got better at it once I got out to LA because I bombed way more often out in LA.
Yeah.
But I was able to kind of appreciate it more. I always understood it, but I could never really accept it when it came time to. And then once there was a point where bombing didn't bother me that much anymore. It was just like, okay, I got a lot to work on that. But the act of, I'm oversimplifying when I say this room of strangers didn't think your ideas were funny. That's oversimplification. While it's happening, it's the worst. It's a terrible feeling. It's like being at the DMV and everyone's mad at you. That's how I felt.
No, I don't think you're oversimplifying. I think you're 100% right. I just think you're saying that from a perspective of someone who's done comedy many, many times.
Yeah.
And that is true for you. But for that early phase, that is when people have to have that wake up call where it's like, no, see, you thought you were funny already. You thought you were good to go, but this is actually going to take a lot of work. So I think just to like button this up and we can get into this thing, people, but like the other kind of more generalized related thing to this is I hate the sound of my own voice and stuff like that, because I think that is ego. Yeah. I think that is ego not wanting to accept reality and wanting to hold in your head whatever idea of what your voice sounds like. And I think it can be very toxic. It can get in the way of your dreams. And like, can you imagine like, you know, if you always wanted to be a singer, or even if you wanted to just do singing as a hobby, but then hating the sound of your own voice and letting that stop you, this ego, you know, your ego really blocking you from potentially fulfillment and meaning and friendships and all these wonderful things that pursuing, you know, whatever it may be.
Definitely.
So.
Yeah, and it is funny. I've never thought about it, but so many people do have that, like, oh, I hate the sound of my own voice. I remember when I was a kid, I didn't like how it sounded played back to me. But the trick that I just accepted was like, no, my voice sounds the way I hear it in my head.
Yeah, right.
That's how everybody hears it. I'm hearing it wrong in the video.
In my head, my voice sounds like this, but when you guys hear it, it sounds like this, guys. We got one heck of an app for you today.
That'd be a good brand.
We're doing some weed stuff.
Yeah.
This is great. Guys, please rate, review, subscribe. Join us on Patreon, patreon.com/AITA pod. We just dropped, I gave Jake here, our wonderful guest, some of the stickers 2.0, our glossy stickers. These puppies are weatherproof. We got a Get Therapy sticker. We got a lot of stickies. Join us on Patreon. Get the stickers right away. Patreon.com/AITA pod. Our second story of the day, AITA for serving fake meat and pretending it was real. But first, and we're kind of running with the weed theme for two of these, is would I be the asshole if I asked my husband to quit smoking weed? So, my husband has smoked since we've gotten together. Never been a big problem. But back in January, we got the COVID. It hit me harder than him. And ever since then, I've had breathing problems. And my doc thinks I have permanent lung damage. For a short period of time, my husband quit smoking for personal reasons, and my breathing improved a lot. But now he started smoking again, and I'm back to wheezing every day. Sometimes even the inhaler doesn't work. I've mentioned that his smoking is making it worse, and he just apologizes. I don't want to tell him what to do, so we tried compromising and having him smoke outside, but the smoke sticks to him, and that doesn't seem to make too much of a difference. Would I be the asshole if I asked him to stop or to find an alternative? He smokes for relaxation and sleep trouble, but sometimes I'm really struggling to breathe.
Well, I think this, to me, I think that there's so many ways that this problem could be fixed and everybody's happy. So it's a matter of, is this a person who is going to do the bare minimum to meet somebody in the middle. It's really on his response what this situation plays out as, because she's making a very reasonable ask here. Now, granted, we don't know if this is a state where cannabis is illegal or not.
Yeah.
If it's a state where it's illegal, this might be more difficult, but there are so many ways to get high. It is absurd. And granted, I'm speaking from California. Yeah. We have drinks that get you high. We have gummies that get you high. We have granola that gets you high. And then there's also vapes have had a tremendous comeback since the vape scare back before the lockdown, where there was genuine concern that product coming out of less than reputable sources, it'd have a ton of stuff that you wouldn't want to be vaping into your body.
Yeah.
And a lot of that too is the tobacco industry as well. But now we have solventless products. We have vape that's essentially just cannabis, terpenes, trichomes, and water, perfectly healthy for you to use. You know, I can't speak. I'm not a doctor. I can't speak if it's healthier than not doing it. I don't know that, but it's definitely not as bad for you as those like terror vape carts that we heard about.
Right.
Stuff
I forgot
getting
about
made
that.
with butane and all that.
Yeah.
And butane is commonly used in a lot of distillates, but it's still not good for you to use stuff that has that.
I mean, it's funny. You went to like basically edibles, alternative consumption methods. I was also just thinking, you know, we did a situation a while ago with a nurse, and she would just shower. She would never take clothes that she smoked in to work as a nurse. So I thought maybe that could be another solution. I think what's really standing out to me, though, is that this person is like trying to be so courteous.
Yeah.
But like, I think you do owe your partner health for sure. If something on your person is making them unhealthy,
deteriorating their quality of life.
Dude, yeah, that's not acceptable.
It actually is kind of, I'm a little concerned about the relationship overall, because she's walking on so many eggshells.
Absolutely.
To strangers in the internet, because she's worried about upsetting her partner. That's bothersome.
Wheezing
for me.
Every day,
that's
and
rough.
You can't bring that up to your boyfriend. I mean, what is the energy there?
It's also just like, call it what it is. Cannabis can be mentally addictive. It can be something that people rely on to achieve a place where they're happier with themselves. Physically, this is not something that is going to make you come back to it. You have to make yourself come back to it. So I'm wondering how emotionally or mentally dependent is he getting short with her on the marijuana topic? Because if he wouldn't even talk with her about it the first time she brought it up, that's a big red flag, homie.
Yeah, I think so. He quit smoking for personal reasons, but now he started smoking again. I have mentioned that his smoking is making it worse, and he just apologizes. So basically, he's just signaling. Yeah. But it sounds like she's not really spelling out maybe how bad it is. Like, she seems like she's being like, hey, you're smoking, it's kind of bothering me a little bit. Whereas I think if she was just like, I'm wheezing, like, this is unacceptable. Yeah. She seems very passive. So I don't know if he's a toxic nightmare person, but
I'm not going to make that assumption. It's just, you have friends and relationships where you meet somebody who is always very careful and delicate about things like this, and they don't seem like they have the confidence to be firm. Hey, I need you to meet me halfway on this. And that's so I think that she could write this with a bit more of her chest out, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, she seems like a nice person, but I think you're right. I mean, I think everyone deserves health from their partner in whatever way that may be, and this is making her sick, and it's on his body.
Yeah, I would love closure on this. I would like to hear.
Gotta get an update.
What happened? Yeah, if you wrote that and you're listening here, please update that, because I would like to know that, you know. Get some edibles, dude. It's better. Hard. It's better for you. Just do
put on a
something
smoking jacket. There's got to be a solution.
Smoking jackets. That's something that should get a comeback,
right?
Yeah,
that's a good look.
That'd be a nice thing to have. I personally don't smoke in my house. I love the smell of.
Oh, really?
I love the smell of flower, but after it's been smoked, all I smell is tar, and it does linger for me. I really don't like having any kind of smoke.
Does it smell like weed in here to you? Can you pick that up?
No, not really.
Good.
But the actual smell of bud, I can smell that all day. I think that's gorgeous.
It's a great smell. Would I be the asshole if I asked my husband to quit smoking weed? I think we agree. It's I think we could say no assholes here. We're trying to pin charges.
No assholes here, barring he has a shitty reaction.
Love it. Guys, please rate, review, subscribe. Join us on Patreon, patreon.com/AITA pod. Get free stickers, not the new stickers, the old stickers at AITApod.com. But you could get the new ones if you join us on Patreon. Here we go. AITA for serving fake meat and pretending it was real. My 2 daughters are vegetarian, but my husband and son are not. I'm probably what they would call a flexitarian. My son and husband always turn up their noses at tofu or any other meat alternatives. They said it's just quote unquote weird that it's made to resemble real meat. So it's really the concept and not the taste. There are no allergies. My family and I often make 2 versions of dinner, 1 meat, 1 real, and twice the amount of pots and pans. There's an equal distribution of cleaning and cooking in the house though. My daughters had a fun prank idea of making 2 pots of spaghetti sauce under the pretense that one was meat. They were both the soy ground beef.
What a ruse.
Oh, the vegans have really done it this time. The goal here was to see if their brother and father actually hated the meat and to see if we could maybe save some dishes and time in the future. Everyone loved dinner. Both husband and son finished their plates. This is when my youngest couldn't hold it in anymore and told them. They both got very upset about being fed something other than what they were told. AITA.
This is a war crime on levels never seen.
I think so.
These vegan terrorists, man, they got to be stopped.
I'm pretty sure the Geneva Convention says you got to feed people real meat.
I mean, I don't want to
delicious meat.
Danny, I don't want to like scare you or anything. I trust your vetting process. Are you sure that these women are not Antifa?
We cannot confirm actually that this is very likely they could be Antifa.
Breaking the joke. That is the weakest, that is the silliest thing I have heard of anybody getting upset over.
Ridiculous.
In a long time.
The thing is, they were right. They did a science experiment and they were right.
Yeah.
This actually, if you can believe this, is less ridiculous than another situation we did where a girl, this is what she actually demanded. She wanted spaghetti made with spaghetti sauce, but then she wanted the sauce completely washed off. She liked just the essence of
she wanted a dusting of sauce.
She wanted the sauce to be applied to the spaghetti, and then she wanted the spaghetti to be fully washed off and have no. And not surprisingly, she couldn't tell the difference between the washed off and the spaghetti sauce never even put on at all.
Yeah, I just think that she needed to accept she doesn't like spaghetti sauce.
Yeah, bizarre.
In this case, this is something that, and we mentioned picky eaters before. This is the kind of picky eating that drives me insane. Try something. Something new.
Exactly.
It's flexitarian. I'm really trying to do the flexitarian thing more often. I'm trying to, which ultimately is like, that's a nice way of saying nothing. It just means I eat vegetables too. That's basically what flexitarian is.
Hello, I'm a flexitarian.
I'm helping. Look, I only had cauliflower with buffalo sauce for this dinner.
You're welcome.
2 burgers tomorrow, though. It's nothing, which is like, eat your veggies. That's a good thing. But these, this dad and the son, like, first of all, bad example, dad. He is the ultimate villain in this story to me. Because he is raising a son to be as weak-willed and poorly acclimated to trying something that he might not want to initially try.
Yeah, I mean, because really, and I see a lot of human darkness here that cuts across food. Because really, this has nothing to do with food. This has nothing to do with taste. This has to do with rejecting something. Prejudice. It's really prejudice, right?
I think there's also an element of power to it too. I think that there's part of masculinity where when you're duped, when you've been tricked, there's a bristle there. There's a, I am no fool. She made a fool of him in his own house at his table.
I think you're spot on.
There's an ego thing there. It's like, it's not just that they tried a new food, and it's upsetting that, like, I love when families have a little, like, they can have some fun with each other like that. But it's so upsetting when there's people in a family that are willing to be fun, willing to, like, there's nothing ill-willed there. They have to make separate dinners for you. I just cannot sympathize with these guys. How old was the son?
The son, I don't know if we got the ages, but yeah, I'm with you. I think you nailed that. I see a lot of male ego here. I think that's a great read on it, that they felt duped and then meh. But it's like, you're ignorant. You were being ignorant. That's what this was. It was prejudice, not toward humans, but still a sort of ignorant prejudgment. And I think that really sucks. And you were clean duped, and you were proven wrong. It was proven that you actually would like this.
Yeah.
And you were being ideological and fucking annoying.
That was probably part of it too, because if somebody is going to be upset about getting tricked into eating vegetables, which when you put it like that, wow.
Hilarious. Literally childlike.
I think there's an element too of like being proven wrong at the same time.
Yes.
You've lost the argument.
You lost big time.
You didn't even realize there was an argument and you lost it.
Well, yeah, and then the argument was, and this is what drives me crazy about picky eaters, and I think maybe going back to our friend who only had the chicken fries to not fuck this up and give her chicken fingers.
You even think about serving chicken fingers.
She will bite off one of your fingers.
That's Antifa.
You're going to give her chicken fries.
So,
like, it's like, look, that girl is like so picky, but I think she had tried other things. But it's like when people are just like, I don't want it, I don't want to try it. It's like, stop being ignorant. Please live life.
Live life.
Openness to experience.
I'm glad your dad tried sushi, by the way.
He did.
I did that. I was always off the sushi train. I tried it and I could never get hooked on it, but it's because everybody hooks you up with a California roll.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, give them some good sushi.
Give them some good stuff.
Yeah, that's like, if you have some well-cut bluefin, you're going to get it real quick.
Yeah. So you're in now?
Oh, I love it.
Oh, love
it. Just had it the other night.
I think there's no charges to even pin here, guys. I mean, now I will say, just to spell it out for anyone, oh, well, is this okay to feed meat to vegans? No,
it's not the same thing.
That's a totally different thing.
That is a terrible thing to do.
That's a terrible thing to do, because what you're doing, first of all, is risky, because it can be, digestive issues. But, the premise of being a vegan isn't that, oh, it tastes bad. It has nothing to do with taste. Right. It has to do with consumption. So you're forcing them to consume, tricking them into consuming. Whereas this is about an objection that has to do with taste. It doesn't even have to do with taste. That's what's infuriating. It's an objection to the concept. It's like ridiculous.
That also just kind of puts it right where we're now talking about vegans. Regardless of how you feel about vegans, if you think that like, I personally could just not live that lifestyle, more power to you. If you're, it is a really, I commend somebody's character, because regardless if I, don't jive with you as a person, if I think you're kind of annoying or whatever, if you're a vegan, you're still making a commitment to complicate a thing that you need to do to stay alive.
That's a good way to put it.
And if you were to feed, and I actually, for people thinking, hey, this is just a hypothetical situation, who would actually do that? I've met somebody who did this. They told it to me like I thought it would be the funniest thing ever, and it was in a professional setting, so I couldn't really react the way I wanted to. The way I chose, but he told it in a way where it was just like, yeah, man, my brother's girlfriend, she's like crazy vegan nuts, so I got her to eat some chili, and I told her it was vegetarian. She got real mad at me, and I was just like, oh yeah, that's a terrible thing to do to a person. Like I'm engaged in the story. Yeah, just like I'm not going to tell you what I actually think of this, but you're invalidating that person's determination to stick to this lifestyle. You're in one shitty move, you have cut out all of their work at the knees, because like you said, it's about what they're consuming. They morally recognize this as a living creature, which frankly, I'm from a hunting family. I think everybody needs to recognize like it. I think that the dad and the son that we were talking about before, they don't recognize meat as a living creature. They've never, I'd be shocked if these men hunted, because you have to recognize this is a living animal.
Well, I mean, I always made that point as a vegan that, if you shoot an animal in the face, that animal doesn't suffer. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Well, that's the ideal. That's one of the reasons I don't hunt.
Well, you're not coordinated, so you probably shoot.
I'm actually very good at it.
You're a good shot?
I'm an incredibly good shot. And it's something I never brag about it because of the world, but it's actually like, I would say that's probably the craziest, like if I was, if there was a party with a shooting range, I could impress people.
And where do you shoot like a deer to make him die? You don't actually shoot him in the face.
I mean, a headshot works. There's a good hunter can place a shot right into the heart.
Yeah.
That's the best way to do it for the animal, because a headshot doesn't always do it.
Yeah.
And it's gruesome. It's really not fun. I learned by the time I was 13 that I was not going to be in the hunting clan in the family. Yeah, it was not for me. I'd still go to the range with everybody. That can be very relaxing. But
I always think it's really funny when they're like, "Oh, deer are vermin." Just something about like it's good to kill deer because there's too many of them.
Population control is that's a real thing, and hunters will be very quick to call themselves conservationists. And if you're doing so ethically and legally, you're absolutely
if
helping.
They don't kill the deer because they multiply, so like now there's like 2 and then there's 4 and then there's 8, and so basically if they don't kill the deers, like everything will become deer. There'll be nowhere to move or walk.
Everything's deer.
It'll just be a sea of deer. So we have to kill deer.
And deer don't die naturally, which is the other thing. They're immortal.
They're basically immortal.
Yeah, so you've got to get out there and hunt them, or else, I mean, without hunters, LA would be lousy with deer.
Yeah. And they're working on boats that will kind of let you traverse the deer. But anyway, we're getting off topic. AITA for serving fake meat and pretending it was real. We agree. Not the asshole.
Not the asshole.
The brother and the dad are.
Grow the fuck up, everybody else.
All right, folks, we're going to wrap up here. Please rate, review, subscribe. Join us on Patreon, patreon.com/AITA pod. Here we go. AITA for telling my neighbor I'm going to smoke weed no matter what, bro. I-22F, live in an apartment where smoking weed's allowed. Weed's also illegal in my state for medical and non-medical use. I use weed for chronic pain. And well, that was a change of tone. Weed is fun. I use it because I'm in constant agony.
Smoke weed 420. This helps me drive my car without wincing.
Jeez. Without it, I'd have to go on disability and wouldn't be able to live a normal life. I have a medical card. Now, this started when my neighbor around 50F started banging on my door and yelled at me to stop smoking inside because it was leaking into her apartment. So I stopped smoking inside. I felt bad. Then she started coming up to my balcony to harass me while I smoke. Then the parking lot. It was never enough for her, and she was adamant she could still smell it even in the parking lot. I told her, listen, I'm in the parking lot in a place I pay for. Call the landlord and have him work something out. Beyond that, it's not my issue. If you find a place you're okay with me smoking, tell me. But beyond that, I will not stop smoking. I plan to keep smoking in the parking lot. AITA.
I'll be honest. There's a pettiness within me where I'm always very, very, very cautious about how I'm affecting people around me. I can really beat myself up if I feel like I made anybody feel less than or uncomfortable. If somebody comes at me with the kind of energy that this neighbor is coming at, I am going to smoke more weed.
Right.
This is, sorry.
Yeah, is that what you mean? Like she's smacking on the door.
It's like, there's a different way for you to come at me on this. Yeah. And like, if you just say, hey, I'm sorry, this is getting in. I've had friends in LA whose neighbors above them, even if they went out on their patio, they could smell the weed, and they asked them politely, hey, could you guys not smoke in your apartment? We have kids. We don't like the smell.
That's
whatever.
Good. See, that's a good reason. We have kids is a good reason.
Meet people halfway. People halfway. Talk to them about it. You're not in control of what they're doing in their home. You need to talk to them about how it's affecting you. I'm so sorry for her that she's wound up in the parking lot in this situation, and now that's the hill she has to die on, particularly because her apartment allows smoking, right? Yeah. So it's the fact that she's willing to go out to the parking lot for this woman, and now she has to bull up in the parking lot and say, no, this is where I make my stand. I just feel for her. I mean, it's, I'm so glad I've never had a neighbor like that. Have you ever had a neighbor that was like that nosy?
No. I never really had this problem.
Seems like a nightmare.
Absolutely. And I feel like reasoning is important too. You know, when you're presenting someone with a problem, it's like, well, what really is the problem? Like, I think saying you have kids is a great trump card. Yeah. I think, or if she said health reasons. Yeah. But is it like, are you just up here to be controlling?
That's what it felt like. That's exactly what it feels like to me. And with somebody like that, you don't give an asshole a cookie. They're going to ask for the whole box. Yeah. People like that take, and you gotta draw a line very quickly. I used to be terrible about that when I was was younger, I was always very accommodating. It was easy to kind of, I don't want to say push me around, but that really is what it was. It was easy because I wanted to accommodate people. Now I'm at an age where I don't know what year it was where it kind of solidified, where I was just like, you're very conscious of how you affect other people. You know when you're being asked of on too much, and it's okay to draw that boundary and say like, I'm not doing anything that is actually causing a problem.
Yeah, you're just choosing to make an issue about it, lady. Electronic Rub 1716. Hey, that sounds nice. NTA, your neighbor complained. You came up with a good compromise to address her concerns. She still complains. Maybe offer her some weed and she'll chill. Hey,
yeah, that's the solution right there. You got to get her on that. Get her some sour diesel.
There we go.
Get her some.
Get in there.
You know what you don't see anymore? Alaska Thunderfuck. You used to see that strain around all the time. It's just gone.
I'll take your word on it.
Yeah, great strain name. There's some great strain names. There's some terrible strain names.
Yeah, hit us with the worst of the best.
Cat Piss.
No.
Cat Piss is the worst strain name ever. I have a problem with green crack. I think that
doesn't seem politically
I have a problem with it just seems tasteless, and I also just don't like people comparing weed to crack, but that's my thing.
Yeah, that's not okay.
My current company has a great strain called the Shid. I think that's a fun one.
Okay.
Not the most clever one I've ever heard.
Is that just shit with a D?
No, it's just the Shid. It's like, this is the Shid. It's fun to say. Bud tenders like saying it.
I just love saying bud tenders. I think this is so funny.
Yeah, it's a fun thing to say. Were you not familiar with the term?
No, I don't think I'd ever heard that.
Yeah, it started getting popularized when the medical shops opened up here out in California. And, if I could, while we're on the subject of cannabis, I would love to tell people, hey, do your homework. There are a ton of really awesome brands out there that are founded, run by people of color. That's a really important thing in our industry right now. It's been totally co-opted by white tech bros from Palo Alto. I'm also one of the white people that has been co-opting an industry that I had nothing to do with the illegal times of, and we still have thousands of people, mostly people of color, across the nation still serving time in jail for selling a plant. It's absolutely absurd. If you are into cannabis, if you like purchasing weed, if you like using it, try to find a black or brown owned brand, that a women owned brand too. There's a lot of women in cannabis right now. Anytime I'm on a platform and I talk about this, I just think it's an important conversation to have. Yeah. Because we wouldn't have this industry if it wasn't for an incredibly fucked up justice system that targets people of color, and essentially weed was made illegal so it would be easier to arrest people of color. Right. So I just think it's something to consider. Ask your bud tender next time you're in a shop. They're usually pretty on the ball with what brands are owned by whom. One, if you really like really powerful potent weed, highly recommend Ball Family Farms. Great brand. Check them out. Really cool strain names. They have like what is it?
All Family Farms.
All Family Farms.
Love it. Well, I'm happy you brought us there. We actually have heard some controversy about this, so it's good to know that it's propagating in the industry, and that people of color should be supported, because obviously they're wildly disproportionately imprisoned and affected by the legal system's racism.
First thought I have every day in this job. It's the best job I've ever had. I love this industry. I love the people in it. Yeah. It's full of very lively people who are very happy to be doing what you're doing. There's not a lot of people who have a ho-hum attitude of it. Like, oh God, another day, 9 to 5 at the weed shop.
Smoking weed.
People love, I love seeing the community that it brings out, how loose people can get around it. And there can definitely be assholes in shops. It's weird how often that happens. But I think it's a beautiful place to be able to make your living. And I do well for myself. And I every day I wake up and I'm aware that I am benefiting tremendously by a lot of sacrifice of a lot of people to be doing what I'm doing for a living. So I just encourage all customers. I try to recommend people do as many different ways that you can support. There's also a lot of great efforts right now to try to correct this imbalance and get an even footing for everybody that's in this game.
Fantastic. Well, I think on AITA for telling my neighbor I'm going to smoke weed no matter what, we agree it's not the asshole, and they are.
The asshole.
Jake, thank you so much for joining me today.
This was a blast, Danny Vega.
This was great.
Yeah.
So much
fun. Have me back sometime. Love it.
Absolutely, sir. All right, guys. We'll see you next time.
Bye.